Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What's today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. On this third day of August, we got the Hall of Fame game tonight. Nothing against the Hall of Fame. I am going to talk about two interesting Hall of Famers. You may have seen it in the title. Zach Thomas, he's got an interesting journey there. And, of course, DeMarcus Ware, former Dallas Cowboy, also into the Hall of Fame. Going to talk about them after the quick break. Also, stay tuned. You fantasy football, a lot of friends and a friend from this guy helping me out with my shoes there. And brother, your name is slipping my mind. But either way, been asking me about fantasy football. A lot of people around work have asked me about it. So I'm going to give some advice on your drafting for this year. I'll save that for towards the end of the show. Plus, been talking about this ESPN thing for the last on and off for the last couple of weeks. Colin Cowherd. There's some little controversy about that as well. And I also want to play homage to one of my listeners here at the end of the program. A thank you homage to a listener. We'll hit the ground running. I'll be back here in 49 seconds. We'll take our first and only break here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty, then let's talk a little. I mean, I'm not one of these people that's a big romantic and to nostalgize or anything, Pickles. But I'll tell you what, it was pretty. There's two fascinating, motivational stories about two men that made the Hall of Fame today, this week. They're going to be inducted on Saturday, like they always do, Pickles. The game will be tonight. It'll be on August 5th, Saturday, usually. The actual Hall of Fame. Now, I may have that wrong. Let me look and see here. NFL Hall of Fame ceremony. Either way, I think it is. I want to say it's Saturday, but sometimes they put it. Yeah, it will be Saturday, August 5th. Okay. I was not stand corrected. I did get it right. All right. DeMarcus Ware and Zach Thomas. Now, Zach Thomas is a guy, undersized, read about Zach. Now, we all knew about Zach Thomas. He always had a nose for the football, played for Jimmy Johnson, and drafted 5th-round pick, Pickles, in 1996 here, all right? And 5th-round pick, 1996, I had Mike Westhoff. I'm going to try to get Mike back on the program. He was a special teams guy for the Miami Dolphins under the head coach Jimmy Johnson and he pressed, and he says it in his book, I pressed for Zach Thomas to get this guy on the team. Didn't run a great 40. He was, let me look at his measurables here. Like 5'10", not even over 200 pounds. I mean, just a really small guy. But, you know, what's the old adage? 5'11", 5'11", Texas Tech, for those of you Not really familiar with that college football. They're more of a high-powered offense. It's where Patrick Mahomes went. They throw the ball all over the place. Not necessarily a Power 5 type of you wouldn't put them in. They're not linebacker U. It's not Penn State. It's not Alabama. It's not an SEC school, you know. Yeah, and that was from his book, Figure It Out. He said, I pressed for Zach Thomas because this guy had to start off on special teams to make the team, you know. And he's going into the Hall of Fame tonight. You know, he's been out of the league since 2009, and he's been eligible since 2014. Not really sure if he was going to get in. But listen to this. I took down some notes here. I found this screenshot I read online about Zach Thomas here. Zach Thomas, this was the Pro Football Hall of Fame Twitter website, says, Twitter site, Zach Thomas' childhood was filled with challenges. He was ran, and maybe this is why he's got that weird look in his eyes all the time. He was ran over, according to the Pro Football Hall of Fame website, he was ran over by a pickup truck at the age of 2. Okay. He once got stuck on a mattress floating 2 miles down a flooded river before being rescued. I was looking at a video the other day of a toddler. This was in Greece, was on her unicorn float, and she was way out in the ocean, and a local ferry with tourists and passengers are saying, "Oh my God!" They rescued this child. I think the Coast Guard, the current got the kid away from the parents. They freak out. Shouldn't have had her on there. But either ways, same thing happened to Zach Thomas, Pickles. Zach Thomas was stuck on a mattress floating 2 miles from a flooded river. Now, maybe that was something different. Maybe his house was flooded. And it says he never met an obstacle he couldn't overcome. But, you know, you look at this guy. I told you about his measurables. I told you about his not very good 40 time. But like my dad will tell me, some guys simply have a nose for the football. And it talks about just the determination. Just think about Zach Thomas, drive, determination, resilience, not listen to outside noise, staying focused, long-term focus. And listen to this resume, guys. 5-time first-team All-Pro, which means he was one of the absolute best at his position. Pro Bowls can be, you can get into the Pro Bowl by technicality, which means somebody else don't want to do it. But when you're All-Pro, that means first-team All-Pro, which means you are the best of the best. You're the best of the best linebacker. He was 5-team first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, twice. This guy, not the fastest guy, not the tallest guy, under 6 foot tall, led the NFL in tackles in 2002 and 2006. And here is a cut of then his former head coach here, Jimmy Johnson, giving him the announcement. Listen to this soundbite. Jimmy Johnson letting Zach Thomas know that he made the Hall of Fame. Listen up.
Of all the players in 40 or 50 years of coaching, I don't know that I've ever coached a player that was as well prepared or worked any harder.
He's serious. Oh my God.
He's breaking down. He's crying. He still looks the same, though. It looks like he can play.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2023.
And he's crying and stuff. They almost tear me up watching the thing, man. I mean, you know, I'm an underdog myself. So, great story there. Kudos to Zach Thomas. Well deserved. You wouldn't think a guy like that would lead the NFL in tackles, man. But it's his heart and desire, determination, and that will to win no matter what. Okay. Carlos says DeMarcus Ware. Okay. DeMarcus Ware was the other guy I was going to talk about. Now, we're talking about a guy who was drafted in 2005 to the NFL, in the NFL draft. He was a top 20 pick. I want to say he was the 11th pick in 2005. Funny story. Got to give Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones wanted him. The great Bill Parcells didn't. But let me read about, let me tell you about DeMarcus Ware. He went to little bitty Troy, Alabama University, okay? He was born and played high school football. He will be in the Hall of Fame Saturday in Auburn, Alabama, and neither Auburn nor the University of Alabama did not even recruit him. He says, quote, "I didn't know what recruitment was." He said, "I had one school that offered me a scholarship, which is Troy University." He said, "I ran like a 4.7." He said, "I was a 185-pound wide receiver coming out." And they said, "DeMarcus Ware, when you get to Troy, we're going to put you at defensive end." At the time, they were a 1AA school. So we played a lot of Jackson States, Alabama States. It's kind of like schools that I went to. I went to Austin Peay, Alabama A&M. So those were the small teams. So me being at 195 was normal. Now, of course, he takes it personal. He works his rear end off. He is quicker than greased lightning. You know, he goes on 4-team first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 9 Pro Bowlers, 2-time NFL sack leader, 2-time Butkus Award winner. And at college, he won the Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year, won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos, and I got a cut of him. Well, first of all, let me play. Actually, you know what? He was a Jerry Jones guy. Got to give Jerry credit. I love to pound Jerry. And I'm going to try to get on next week. I'm going to try to get Jim Jeffcoat back on the show. I got a few things to ask Jim. Okay. But listen to DeMarcus Ware talk to, he's on the Rich Eisen show here, talking about Bill Parcells and how Jerry wanted him, but Bill didn't. And Bill wanted to remind him that he didn't want him, and he was a Sean Merriam guy who later went 13 to the then San Diego Chargers. So the video was loading up. I'm just giving you a little backstory here. Rich Eisen and the great DeMarcus Ware. Listen up. This is funny. If it'll play.
What's the story about? You know how you go on the visits before the combine, right, and you go to visit the owner and the coaches, and on my visit to the Dallas Cowboys, they tell me we're not interested. And so I'm thinking in my mind, well, I'm probably going to go to Carolina or San Diego. And as soon as the 11th pick in the 2005 draft come up, the Dallas Cowboys picked me.
And you were like,
I'm like, where did this come from? Like, really? But just to have an opportunity to, meet with Jerry Jones and with Bill Parcells, because Bill Parcells actually wanted Sean Merriman.
That's the root.
He wanted Sean Merriman.
We've talked about this with Sean Merriman, actually, on the show.
Yes, and they actually had a dollar bet telling me that I will not, my first 5 years, have 10 sacks.
Whose dollar? Who made this dollar bet?
Jerry Jones and Bill Parcells.
Like the Dukes in Trading Places?
Like the Dukes in Trading Places. The great funny
Jerry
Eddie
Jones
Murphy
won.
movie.
Yes. Jerry Jones won the bet.
And Bill's the one screaming, "Turn the machines back
He
on."
turned the machines back on.
Well, you definitely were a machine turned on, for sure.
Thank you.
What was Parcells like, though, of trying to get you to have your Huggies drop or don't put you in the Hall of Fame just yet, all that sort of stuff that Parcells does?
He was one of the coaches that played the most mind games with me the whole time. And let me tell you, every single day, if I didn't hear about Sean Merriman, you know what? Sean Merriman had 3 sacks. You don't have any. He might be Rookie of the Year. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. DeMarcus, how are you going to rush out of a 6 technique, meaning being head-to-head on the tight end and rushing? I said, well, like looked at him face to face. I said, "Why don't you stick me outside like Sean Merriman and see what I do?" And he looks at me like, "I don't coach rec league players. I want you to do what I tell you to do." I said, "You give me one opportunity to rush outside." I said, "I bet you $1. He loves to bet. I'll get a sack." And he's on the sideline. He just says,
emotions like go outside.
Emotions like get outside.
Uh-huh.
I get outside and I go and get a sack and I turn around. I'm like a kid because I'm a rookie. And I look at him and I got that nod, that Parcells nod, like, okay, you can play outside. And from that point on, I've always played a technique in his system.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and if you watch DeMarcus Ware, he's one of the best defensive ends that's ever played. For the organizations, I know Charles Haley played. I can make the argument though, oh God, what's the guy's name? Michael Parsons. If he can keep up this pace, I think he can surpass Ware. But Ware's in the Hall of Fame, man. You know, and he's quick as a cat. He's always been quick as a cat. He stayed healthy. He goes to Denver when Dallas thought he was washed up. He helps them win a Super Bowl at the very end, and he proves to Bill Parcells. And it was funny. I was going to say in my write-up to Parcells, why didn't Parcells greet Ware instead of Jerry Jones? Because Jerry Jones actually believed in him more. And here is a take here. This is him getting this is Parcells here. Parcells. I got Parcells on my brain. Here's Jerry Jones. Here's some sound of him letting DeMarcus Ware know, hey, man, you've made it to the top. You are in the Hall of Fame. Let me see. Okay.
You're in the class of 23 Football Hall of Fame forevermore. I'm going to get to be in there with you, too, with my bus there with it, too. I'm so proud of you. Welcome to the NFL Hall of Fame.
I can't even breathe right now.
Angela, let me congratulate you as well.
He shakes hands with his wife.
Team at your own forever.
And Ware's in tears, and he says he can't breathe.
She got me on this.
Oh, boy.
I thought I was coming by saying,
just one of the greatest players.
Hold on.
He's trying to catch his breath, and it stopped that. Great moment, man. Great moment. I tell you, I've always liked DeMarcus. I like people who show up to work and work their rear ends off every day, day in, day out. Don't make excuses. He could have said, okay, bleep you, Bill Parcells, trade me if you don't like it. He didn't say that. He said, listen, man, put me outside. I bet you I can get 3 sacks. And for the record, later on, Sean Merriman, I think he was suspended for PEDs. You know what I really remember about Sean Merriman, the guy that was drafted with him, that same class, more than other than dating that tequila chick from one of these reality shows. Maurice Jones-Drew laying the hammer down. Little bitty 5'5", wide as all outside running back. Maurice Jones-Drew Pickles dropping his shoulders when Merriman was coming off the side and knocking this giant 6'2" plus 440 guy off his feet. One of the best running back textbook blocks of all time, Maurice Jones-Drew. I mean, the Wares turned out to be a really good player. Don't get me wrong. He brought it, Marion. But Ware's obviously the better player. He's in Canton today. Marion is not. So, anyways, good stuff there. I thought you all would like that. Looks like you have. Another interesting story. Been talking a lot about ESPN here lately, about them suffering with ratings issues, money issues. Now there's a report out that they're trying to bring back former radio hosts. Remember the Keyshawn Johnson show that got divvied out, and they fired everybody on that staff. It wasn't actually reported that they were going to do away with ESPN radio all around, but I was kind of getting the gist that ESPN was going to just do away with the radio, and those rumors kind of settled down. Now, what's really interesting is now they're trying to go back after Colin Cowherd. And you say, well, does that really seem like a big deal? Yes. For those of you that love sports talk radio like I have, I've followed him since those early college days. Carlos, when back at Austin Peay. I think I first discovered him on ESPN radio and sports talk. I was like, man, I really like this. Is cool, Back in 2002, 2003, something right around the first time we started college. And he ends up, it was rumored that he was going to leave ESPN radio back in 2015. So the rumors start to come to fruition and go to FS1. They were starting a new radio division. And, now, Jim Rome was good. He was the man before Colin. And, we used to trash Rome because he would trash everybody. I think he was one of those super pessimistic types. But I'm giving you all a refresher. Let's go back 8 years. So Colin basically puts in his 2-week notice, says he's leaving. And he has a controversy about Dominican born players. It shouldn't have been. He was just trying to make a statement that football players aren't as dumb. It's harder to coach and it's harder to play from a mental aspect of football. And he just gets tongue-tied. And this is the beginning of cancel culture, right? So, long story short, the blogosphere, I think it was, I can't remember the name of the website. But anyways, these blogs start writing up about him. After a while, I heard the show live, didn't think anything about it, but this is the beginning of cancel culture. And he's basically kind of pushed into making an apology. And he was trying to explain everything because it was not, he said it was basically taken out of context. And I would listen, I've pounded Colin Cowherd. I've got some criticisms. I've got a pretty interesting take on this. But listen, this is a flashback, folks, to 2015. Colin Cowherd trying to explain that situation away here. Okay. And it's funny. I found this off of YouTube, and it says Colin Cowherd no longer on ESPN after comments. Carlos, I hope you're not taking this game seriously. That's not the real Jets. Okay. Yeah, the game's being played. There's a bunch of backups, by the way. Funny. Okay, so here's Colin Cowherd back in 2015 trying to explain what he said. But I'm saying this because this is a big they're rumored to be begging this guy to come back. And I'll read some of the screenshots from the article from Barrett Sports that's reported this. But this is why he left. This is why I think he would never be asked to come back to ESPN after he left for Fox after this. So listen up.
I'm not here to double down today. I'm not digging my heels in. I'm really into that. In fact, I spent a good portion of yesterday's show saying, I think I've totally changed my mind on college football in an 18 playoff.
It's funny.
But I do think when you host a radio
That's funny. People joked around about the playoff. Now we got a 12 team next year. It was unheard of even just 8 years
In
ago.
the current climate and in the current blogosphere climate, I have a right to actually run the full videotape of what I said yesterday. I don't think I should be defined by 16 seconds of a minute rant edited on a site owned by a blog company currently in a $100 million lawsuit for airing improper audio and videotape.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, it just came to me. It was Deadspin. Deadspin is who he was referring to.
In my 57 seconds that yesterday somebody edited, took a segment of, and said, there's institutional racism. That host should be fired. I'm not here to double down, but I think I have a right to run the entire tape. Yes, the climate's different these days. And I think it hurts comedy more than guys like me. I don't think what I say often is that cringeworthy. I saw a story yesterday, Jon Stewart, unbelievable talent. Jon Stewart, Vulture magazine. Jon Stewart apparently told a African-American writer on his staff, blankety, blankety, blank, they got into an argument. They got into an argument because the black writer was offended or, quote, cringed, unquote, when Jon Stewart, white, went on his show and did a rant. And in the rant, there was a bit where he impersonated Herman Cain, candidate who was black. The black writer confronted Jon Stewart in a meeting and said, I was uncomfortable. I cringed. To that, I would say, all great comedy comes from the cringe. Amy Schumer, Louis C.K., Chris Rock, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy. The cringe often makes the comedy. I'm not sure if you write comedy, if you're writing it and you're never on a show that makes you cringe, that show probably sucks. Key and Peele, I laugh out loud. Some of it I cringe. Louis C.K., I laugh out loud. Some of it I cringe. The cringe makes the comedy. Now, I don't think the cringe makes the radio host. But yesterday I said something. We got into a discussion about baseball, and I said, soccer does this sometimes too, where it's like, you don't get the sport, you're not smart enough. Oh, stop it. Can we stop with the I don't get a sport because it's just too complex? And I said, think about baseball. In football, if a quarterback and a center couldn't communicate, spoke a different language, you couldn't run a play. In baseball, you can have a shortstop from Cuba, a pitcher from Korea, a second baseman from Brazil, and a catcher from Colorado. You could win a World Series.
And that's funny he brought that up because you look at Shohei Ohtani, he's probably the best player since Babe Ruth as far as a two-way player. He don't speak any English. But we've embraced him. But that's part of what he's getting at, though. And he continues. Now, they're like I said, this whole segment is him trying – they're asking the guy, because his numbers are still really good, to come back to ESPN.
You can't even communicate. You could have major language barriers. Doesn't matter. Only 4%, 4.3% last time the stats were taken according to Stats LLC in May of 2014, only 4% of the sport had a college degree. That includes managers and coaches. So I don't think I have to be Stephen Hawking to understand baseball. Most of the players didn't go to college. They seem to understand it. Many times the players can't even understand languages with their teammates. Doesn't matter. Then here's the part I said, and it got people riled up. Some people. I said, listen, a third or a quarter of the sports from countries with economic hardships that have created educational hurdles. Here's the actual tape that became, on the blogosphere, 57 seconds, a firestorm. I mean, the Marlins put a general manager in their dugout. People freaked out. Like, whoa, it's baseball. You don't think a general manager can manage? Like, it's impossible? The game is too complex? Like, I've never bought into that baseball is just too complex. Really? A third of the sport is from the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic has not been known in my lifetime as having, world-class academic abilities. I mean, a lot of those kids come from rough backgrounds and have not had opportunities academically that other kids from other countries have. Baseball's like any sport. It's mostly instincts. A sports writer who covers baseball could go up to Tony La Russa and have a real baseball argument, and Tony would listen, and it would seem reasonable. There's not a single NFL writer in the country that could diagram a play for Bill Belichick. You know, we get caught up in this whole thinking man's game. That's it. I get when published out of context.
Yeah, and he probably didn't have to go that far to make his point. He was just trying to defend the game of football, you know. But he basically, they said, do not work out your 2-week notice after this. Don't pass. You're if you weren't getting a job already, if you wasn't quitting, you would be fired. It's basically everything that was said after that. And so now what I'm reading, going back to the write-up about him, is ESPN. This is from Barrett Sports. ESPN reportedly views Colin Cowherd as the answer to ESPN radio problems. Michael McCartney of Front Office Sports reports that ESPN would like to bring back the Herd Star back to the network. McCartney, he's the quote, the brass in Bristol, which is still in Bristol, Connecticut, views Cowherd as the answer to their struggling ratings. Struggling ratings on ESPN radio, says sources. Cowherd spent 10 years at ESPN before being recruited to join FS1 and Fox Sports. I want to say he went around the same time Skip Bayless did. Okay. The source told McCartney that Cowherd's ratings are high and he is low maintenance. Even though that last flare-up, they said he's low maintenance for his bosses, and re-signing him should be a no-brainer from Fox. We'll see. And you know, Carlos and Linda, they're arguing about the Jets here. Ron Acuna doesn't speak English either. Yeah, and Don Imus said, if you don't get fired, you're probably not a good talent. Don Imus and Rush Limbaugh both have been fired about 7 times. Throw in Howard Stern. Been fired about 7 times. I guess my whole thing for this program is, and I tell my friends this, I want to thank guys like Carlos for helping me out and believing in me, and Corey, Pickles, my regular folks on here, my sister, Crystal, Livia, for really, you know, pitching in. Brittany, my niece here, has helped me out a bunch, turned me on to the anchor out. But the thing is, my whole philosophy is, if you got the people, it doesn't matter if you got an audience, you know. So things got off the. So Colin was shaken by that. By that incident in 2015, he was shook. He was shook by this. So he goes to California 6 or 7 weeks later. He frosts his hair blonde, kind of loses his mind a little bit. And there were reports that were internet rumors, websites, one called HollywoodMarriage.com or something like it. It wasn't TMZ, but it was other sites saying that he was actually dating his co-host when he was married, Christine Leahy, at the time. I'll tell you what, I didn't think that for a little while there, and I've told you about this, Corey, if you watch it in private, that I thought that maybe this guy was going to be washed up. You know, I thought that his takes were off. He was off early on at Fox. The Christine Leahy thing. Here's some comments, some cringeworthy back and forth with his attractive co-host.
Really sad about
you know, she's 6 foot tall, blonde, very attractive, about 15 years younger than him. And here it is. Here they are going a little back and forth on FS1.
You got a cat, right?
Right. I know about this.
And the cat was in the house. And they've been fighting, right? Because it's territorial, right?
Sure.
And at first, it was kind of uncomfortable.
Colin Cowherd and Christine Leahy.
It's like they didn't like each other or something. It was weird. And it was like, you're so adorable. And so it's gone on for now 2 weeks, and we've had to separate them. And last night, I'm sitting there on the couch watching a show with the little kitty on my chest, and the dog came over and kind of like animals gave it a hug. It was
like arms around,
like an animal, like a little dog came over and like rubbed up against it and put its arm on it, like gave it a hug. And I thought, this is just like Christine and I's relationship. This is how it was. The first couple of weeks, we were very distant.
We were?
Yeah, like John was like, are you guys going to start like getting along? And
seriously?
I was worried about you.
He was worried about me. And then...
Wait, so I was living in a fantasy land where I thought we were getting along? I thought we were cool.
You get along with everybody.
Jeez.
You're the nicest. And then like in the last like 4 or 5 weeks, we've just like been buddies and we share secrets and we're vulnerable and we cry and stuff and talk about the Eagles. So last night was one of those great moments. And my little dog came over, Chewy, and went to my cat, Coco. And like, it was weird. It was like put its arm around it and hugged it. And I was like,
so I'm Coco and you're Chewy?
Let's not go into who.
So that was really cringeworthy radio. I know you couldn't see it, but you can kind of, it was cringeworthy. So I thought he was kind of, but the guy, long story short with him, went through another female co-host, Joy Taylor. They both kind of got their own gigs. Moved. That chick later got married. She had the thing with Lamar Ball. And, now he's back on top again because he's got a male co-host, Jason who's actually good too. Jason McIntyre started the big league. Very, very good. And he used to, when he got at Fox and got relaxed after things calmed down, then he started calling it the other place. And he started saying, well, they shouldn't let people talk about politics and everything. Then he started getting woke himself. He went through that stage. He takes shot at the former presidents and trying to fit in. He was trying to fit, even though he said that wasn't, he's very two-faced, hypocritical. He's one of these, whichever way the wind blows kind of guy, in a sense. So here's him. Here's some hints that he may actually come back to ESPN. He's actually speaking up for ESPN. This was on yesterday's program talking about, I'll let you listen.
I mean, like ESPN may not be what it once was, but I wouldn't change ESPN. It's something. It's iconic, like Apple.
And he was talking about, the discussion was about Elon Musk changing the Twitter to the X thing or, doing all that. But normally he throws ESPN on the bus. So now he's trying to jump up at money and praise ESPN. On Fox. And now while he's on Fox, the guy has started his own podcast network called The Volume. And then he, loved up to ESPN again. So I don't know where it's going, but it's interesting little tidbit about ESPN that's been in the news. And speaking of that, speaking of giving out praiseworthiness, okay, I wanted to give a shout out to a listener here. I'm out of the Nashville, Tennessee area. By the way, just a side note here. I was looking at this report here. I want to say this is from Bloomberg. It says Disney stock now trades below its price on July the 14th, 2014. So if you bought the stock price 9 years ago and simply held on to it, you lost money. So, I mean, they're having trouble everywhere. ESPN. But let me give a shout out, though, to Nigel Wesley. I wanted to apologize when I said something to you in one of the comments. Nigel, I thought your first name was Wesley. I was looking at your handle, but it's actually Nigel. And he is out of Australia. I think he began listening to me through Dan Dave Harris's channel, who's Let's Talk Sports here. YouTube channel, they use the program and share it and everything. Almost broadcasting through them. Of course, Linda with North East Streaming Sports as well. Dan is out of the UK, and this is what Nigel said from Australia. He says, your show is very interesting and always very informative, entertaining. He said, a while back, I let my ESPN account go by the wayside. So watching your show is a way of keeping me in touch with the latest U.S. sports Gross and info and news. So yeah, he said, thank you very much, Robert. And thank you, Nigel. I mean, that's a great compliment coming from the other side of the world. Always wanted to go to Sydney, Pickles, and see those kangaroos in Australia. Their seasons are totally opposite of ours. So we're coming out of summer, but it never really gets cold there. I would like to check Australia out sometime here. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Nigel, at Wesley Media Hub. Great follower, great Twitter feed, and he listens to the program as well here. Thank you very much, man. I greatly appreciate that. White Beaches, huge waves, Pickles, huge waves out there. That's a long way from Nashville, Tennessee area. All right. Now, I know a lot of you, we've got the Hall of Fame game going on. All right. Got a really good segment coming up now. Let me take a drink of water. We got some good stuff here. All right. Guy the other day, man, my friend, what's it? Timmy? Timmy from Archmasters. Tim, asking me about fantasy football. People at work been asking me about fantasy football. We just got we're right in here in the season. I don't do drafts anymore. Used to do them. Got a little distracted. Got too busy to do them. May do one anyways. May do a Yahoo. May do an ESPN. Whatever. But a lot of you have asked me about fantasy football and just some advice. What I like to do when it comes, Pickles, to fantasy, whether you're drafting a team or you are doing daily. I love daily, whether it be DraftKings, which I don't hardly do much anymore, or FanDuel. I do a team. I say a team. That's really live. Probably about 4 or 5 teams with my dad every Sunday, about 30 minutes before kickoff. That's like a ritual. Okay, so now Thursday. Let me get my notes here. So I'm not. So setting up the lineup this year, what I found out in the past, take teams with good offenses and bad defenses. For example, last season, the Minnesota Vikings were 30th in total yards and total points, okay? The 2 Minnesota Viking games, Carlos, the 2 Minnesota Viking games, a lot of people can say that those got Daniel Jones, his extension. He had 2 great games against the Minnesota Vikings. Lost the regular season, won the playoff game. They have done nothing to improve that. They did hire Brian Flores, former defensive coordinator for the Patriots. Remember, he was the head coach there of the Dolphins. He was an assistant with Pittsburgh last year. Now he's the DC there. He is the DC for Minnesota, but they don't have any players. They let Zadarius Smith go, their best pass rusher. Kendrick, what's this guy's name? Either way, I think he's their leading. I want to say that he is their leading Hendricks, I think. Yeah, Eric Kendricks. Patrick Peterson's gone. Adam Thielen's gone. Devlin Tomlinson. Those are 2 interior. Those 3 key defensive guys gone. And you say, well, what did they do? They add anybody? They had a bunch of people I've never heard of. And you say, well, they had to do something in the first round, right? You're 30th in points. You're 30th in total yards. Your secondary's 30th. You fired the DC and that's it. Didn't you add some players? No, they didn't. They actually drafted Jordan Addison, really good wide receiver out of USC. Remember, he transferred over from Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, played with Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. arguably the best receiver in the country. So they have Justin Jefferson, most would say the best wide receiver in the NFL right now as of today. And then you've got Jordan Addison there. Then you got Matson there at running back, and no defense there. Cousins will get the ball to his playmakers. Throw in T.J. Hockenson. He'll get the ball to his playmakers, and they're going to give up a lot of points. You're going to have a lot of shootouts. So those are you want to take players from that team, and you want to take teams that play them. So keep an eye on Minnesota Vikings in your daily fantasy next year. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. Yeah, Pickle says 44-41. I don't see why not. I really don't. Especially even playing a team in the division like a Detroit. Take. I used to say this with my dad a lot. He used to tell me this. We used to talk about this all the time. Get them on the road. Take the opposing running back. Get them at home. Take the opposing wide receiver. And with Cousins, you probably want to take the defense. Even though they'll give us some points, he's going to turn the ball over to a couple of times, especially if it's in a primetime game. Next team, Raiders. Another team hovering around 27th in defense. Not the best offensive line in the world. Got Jimmy Garoppolo, supposed to be healthy. Devontae Adams there. All right. You've got Renfro there. They've drafted Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. Big playmaking tight end. They haven't done a lot. They did draft Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech as to help them out with Crosby, but they're weak in the middle defensively, which is at linebacker. They're really weak at cornerback. I thought they was going to go corner. Did not go corner. Plus, I'm not really believing Josh McDaniels. I do believe that he's got good chemistry with Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember, he coached him as an offensive coordinator for years with the New England Patriots there. So the offense is going to be good. The defense, again, the defense will be bad. Okay? So the Raiders, you got to keep an eye on the Raiders. All right? Other teams. Tampa. You say, Carlos over here, he thinks Tampa's going to be good. Well, you've got Baker Mayfield, all right, on his third team in 2 years. Mayfield, remember last year with Tom Brady, the quickest release in the game, and he could barely get rid of the ball. He can barely get – Carlos is maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. Barely get rid of the ball on time. They're going to have problems offensively. I do think that they'll be down often in games late. I think defenses will adjust and play more prevent light, and you're still going to have Mike Evans there to throw the ball to, drop the ball down the run back. So you're going to get some fantasy points there. I think under Todd Bowles, probably not head coaching material. I think that this team will probably give up on Bowles about midway through the season. Listen, they've had a lot of salary cap issues. It's not all the way his fault. And what are you going to do with Baker Mayfield? Okay. But I think they're going to lose a lot of games. There'll probably be a seller. Maybe Mike Evans comes up for trade bait at the early November trade deadline. Keep an eye out for him. Maybe he goes to a contender there, and maybe they're in the sweepstakes to get a Drake May or Caleb Williams out of USC. Their defense will look good. Bowles, good defensive-minded head coach, but they're going to be on the field a long time because there's going to be some 3-and-outs early. They're going to wear down. My guess is they'll give up. They're only a 6.5 over and under type of wins there. I think they're probably going to win about that many games. They'll give up towards the middle of the season. You'll be able to torch them offensively there. So keep that in mind. Also, let's go back to the West Coast, folks. Go to the West Coast here. The Rams. Listen, the Rams traded away their best cornerback, Jalen Ramsey, then consistently dumping defensive players. They asked Aaron Donald to come back. Donald's been contemplating retirement for a couple years now. He only played 11 games, their defensive tackle there. Still got Sean McVay coaching here, even with Matt Stafford, who was injury prone. Stetson Bennett actually has been having a really good camp. The number fourth round picks having a really good camp there. The Rams, remember they were totally out of it last year. They totally blew out the Denver Broncos. That was the final nail in the coffin for Nathaniel Hackett. I still don't think they're going to win 7 or 8 games. They're going to give up a lot of points. They gave up on a lot of defensive players. Still got guys like Cooper Kupp there. Very good scheme here. They're going to give up a lot of points. You're going to be able to run on them on the road. You'll be able to throw on them in LA. So anything for and against the LA Rams, keep that in mind. They're another one of those teams. Last but not least, possibly, according to FanDuel, Arizona's the favorite to get the number 1 pick. 4.5 over and under wins. The Cardinals have Jonathan Gannon, a guy the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, who could not get a stop. They could not get a stop in the second half. Had very famous Philly, the sports guy, Jamie Pags on the program. He says, God, please let us get rid of, please let somebody hire Jonathan Gannon away. This was after week 1 when they gave up 30 points to the Detroit Lions. Luckily for them, they outscored the Lions and won their opening game there at Detroit. This guy is not head coach material. I think he's going to be a mess. Kyler Murray may not play the first 5 weeks. It's going to be Colt McCoy there, okay? DeAndre Hopkins, they cut DeAndre Hopkins. J.J. Watt retired. Budda Baker wanted out of town. They talked him into staying. This guy's going to be woefully over. This could be a Nathaniel Hackett situation out in Arizona. They traded away some picks so the Houston Texans can move up. My guess is they're trying to play the long game here and tank and get one of those top quarterbacks and trade away Kyler Murray. I don't think the owner cares for Kyler Murray. That's why basically the general manager, I don't know if he took a leave of absence or was fired. He supposedly was sick or whatever. Steve Klein got rid of him. Fired Cliff Kingsbury. As I predicted, he would be fired and was on the hot seat here. And this guy this Michael Bidwell may be one and done. He may make Jonathan Gannon a one and done guy as well. There's a possibility they can have the number 1 pick and the number 5 pick. Houston probably won't be that really good either way. Those that have Houston's first pick, because remember Houston traded up to get the defensive end there out of Alabama. Okay, and of course they took Stroud there. They took Stroud and Will Anderson out of Alabama there. So Arizona 4.5 wins there. There's going to be another team going to give up a lot of points at home. Not going to be able to move the ball that much with a Colt McCoy. What kind of offense are they going to have? This guy's like 37 years old. Totally new offense here. Defense got a lot of holes in it. Again, you got guys leaving, retiring, getting rid of pass rushers there. Their first round pick was a left tackle there. Remember, it was Paris Jackson out of Ohio State. So they're going to be another one of those teams. So I did make some notes here. Okay. I did make some notes here about, you say, well, what teams are you talking about here? Okay. Listen, players on teams that play the NFC West and players on teams that play the NFC East. You say, well, what players would those be? Okay. The NFC East and the AFC North both play the NFC West. two of those teams I just mentioned, which are going to be great for fantasy players, Arizona and especially the Rams, those two. So teams from the AFC East, your Philadelphias of the world, your Dallases and even your Giants there, Carlos, they're going to be playing the NFC West, which has got two duds there. That's two duds right there. And of course, you have the 49ers, who they've always had holes in the back end of their defense for some reason. I remember they gave up 44 points to Kansas City. Now, of course, Seattle will be better, but Seattle may be playing on the road. They're not defensively. They've never been that good on the road. They've been better on the road, but they've never been great on the road, especially playing in the Eastern time zone there. And, of course, the players in the AFC North, they got a lot of playmakers there. I mean, we're talking Deshaun Watson. Kenny Pickett may have a breakout year. George, what's his name, Perkins or whatever, the wide receiver from the Steelers there. Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's got all these targets, man. He may get hurt later, but he's going to be, and I think Joe Burrow eventually get healthy. So you got some pretty decent quarterbacks there, especially for fantasy. Fantasy-wise, Lamar Jackson may have the best year for all we know. He really could throw that in there with a guy like look at Josh Allen, who's always good at fantasy if he's healthy, from a Buffalo Bills there, and George Pickens. Thank you, Pickles. Yeah, George Pickens and Will Anderson. Pickles knows my players here that we're talking about here. So you want to take teams, good offenses to fair, or just bad teams with bad defenses. Who's playing? How many bad teams with bad defenses? It's not as much as you want a skilled player, and you want a quarterback who's got chemistry with his wide receivers. I get that. And also, I did make a note. You also want to get, for you daily fantasy players like myself, my dad, guys that are cheap, that are rookies, are typically cheap, even if they're projected to be stars early in the season in these daily leagues. For example, Anthony Richards, he's likely going to be the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. He's likely going to be the leading rusher. Remember, they hired Shane Steichen, the former offensive coordinator from the Philadelphia Eagles. They're thinking Jalen Hurts 2.0. This guy's bigger than Jalen Hurts. He's going to throw some picks, but he might rush for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. And also the Colts, their best cornerback, Stephon Gilmore, he left in free agency over to the Dallas Cowboys. So they're going to have problems on the back end. Pretty good up front. Buckner's pretty good. But they're going to have problems on the back end there. Their leading linebacker, Shaq, I forgot his name there, Lawson, who's had problems there. He's had injuries here. I don't know if he's going to come back or not. But either way, you look at players like Anthony Richardson and perhaps sleepers. Shaq Leonard, thank you. Sleepers. Yeah, just gave you a shout out there, Nigel from Australia, Wesley Media Hub there, buddy. The Colts here, Anthony Richardson could be a fantastic fantasy player here. Could get multiple rushing touchdowns. I'm saying 6 to 7, perhaps, maybe more. I think that they're going to be pushed by the ownership, who's shown to be very authoritarian here in Jim Irsay these last couple of years. He's already made the comment, we need to get him the experience as soon as possible. So I think, and although rough and raw here, I think he's going to get some rushing yards. And I think he's going to be those sleepers fantasy. The receivers, talked about this last week. Bryce Young, somebody from the Carolina Panthers. I don't know who, because DJ Moore is with the He's with the Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears. And, of course, Christian McCaffrey, he's been traded over. So we don't know who he – so my point is Bryce Young is bullet accurate. I mean, he is bullet accurate like a Tua. So you say, Robert, what's your point? My point is that Young is going to have chemistry with some very cheap fantasy wide receivers, a wide receiver, maybe a tight end with the Carolina Panthers. Those are just a few tips there. Looking for bargains here. I'm always looking for bargains, especially when we're in got inflation like this. Yeah, much love, brother. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate all the way from Australia, man. I got some winter time here. I have to fly down and check out the great Australia when I get the money, obviously. Very expensive there. Love to see the Australian Open one of these days here. So, and, again, I'm going to shoot to get former Dallas Cowboy Jim Jeffcoat on the program here and ask him about, I'm telling you right now, I think this Dallas team could perhaps be the best defense in the NFL next year. I'll say it. And it'd be a great fantasy team. Talked about Stephon Gilmore. He's going to be opposite. He's going to be opposite of their cornerback who just got that big deal. Now, his name just slipped my mind here. And I was just talking about him the other day. Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, who could be better than DeMarcus Ware, who just now got in the Hall of Fame, and Stephon Gilmore. You got that kind of back end there. And I read today Dallas wants to run the ball more. And Deuce Vaughn, is that his name? Number 22, the Kansas State running back, 5'5", having a great camp with Dallas. So Dallas may be a ball-controlled defensive team, and they may be one heck of a fantasy football defense, folks. All right, if you guys like the show, please share the show. Wesley, I appreciate it. Nigel, my man there from Australia. John, by the way, tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be on Spitballin' Sports with John. That's John Restano's show, talking about the Tennessee Titans. Little suspect on that line. We're going to talk about the Titans and whatever he wants to ask me. Check that out. And, of course, I'll be here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern time with the normal Fridays with Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, here, same place, same time on Sports.